नमस्कार दोस्तों I will start again. Namaskar dosto, welcome friends, all amigos to Agile in cybersecurity and IT infrastructure. Now, as you can see here, I started with a curtain because in reality, I don't have a presentation. It's a PPT, but I don't have presentation. All I have is collection of short stories. I'm going to tell multiple short stories and all are my experience. My experience with agile transformation in cybersecurity and IT infrastructure world. I'm Vivek Sinha. I'm enterprise agile coach, and for over last 8 years, I coach team across 4 different continents and over 12 different countries. And for last 4.5 years, I am actually coaching or working on agile transformation in cybersecurity and IT infrastructure side. So as I said, I have collection of short stories. These stories are not coming from one transformation, but primarily from 3 different transformation in 4 different geographical locations. And some of the stories coming from one, some have common leg in all transformation, and some are from other. But before I start with my experiences and stories, what does it really mean about IT ops? Because to be very honest, about 4 years ago, when I met a very senior, experienced person, and he is gem of a person, he jokingly or maybe seriously asked me, Vivek, you coach infra division, right? What they do? What actually these people do? And that was surprise for sure, but that keep me thinking, yes, in reality everything may look same from outside, but these are 2 different worlds. From outside it just look like it's just deploying my code to some server, but around this deployment there are tons of different things. There are servers, the real hardware server, which runs on softwares like OS or Linux, and those are actually be part of some virtual machines. So someone need to create those virtual machines. Those virtual machines are talk to each other through network. So there are software driven network, hardware driven network, there are firewall needed, there are security vulnerabilities, so access management, there is like middleware communication to each other, MQ series and others. So there are a complete whole different world that IT security or IT infrastructure have, and their core lies with 2 S's. It's all about security and stability. If you talk to them, only thing that really matter for them is security and stability, and not about speed and other things. So it's a different world, it's a different mindset. As I said, it's my experience, and when I look back, I think the best way to express my experience is a roller coaster ride. In reality, it's when I was thinking what can be one single image that can do justice to my experiences, and I quickly come in my mind about this roller coaster, because this is how that journey was. Lots of ups, lots of downs. To be very honest, I had much more failure than successes in this journey. Like in roller coaster, sometimes you really feel anxious. It was like that, but looking back, it's very rewarding, it's very fun filled. So I choose roller coaster as a narrative of my story, and everything will be moving around it. So my story will go around the trigger point for me, charting out a plan with leadership. Without leadership nothing can happen. Lots of up journey, and those up journey are primarily something that one can simply replicate in similar transformation. So really, very very common thing, good thing, but then lots of down journey as well. And I think as a biggest key takeaway from this talk can be all this learning and adaptation that I will be talk about. Those were the real hard earned learnings, and then of course there will be conclusion. So this is how I'm going to tell my story. The trigger point for me was, again, there is a story behind it. The day when I gave a training, and I'm agile coach, and most of us here are agilist, and we always give training. So I think trainer is another part of our personality. So we all are very comfortable giving training and everything. And after every training, I spend good amount of time doing a quick retrospective and review of the day. of the training day, and that's my habit. And so on this specific day also, at the end, I asked for the training feedback, and the people were like, trainer feedback is very good, very good, but the training feedback was, it was like, cryptocurrency market is crashing down. So so scores were really low, and I was so surprised. I was surprised because most of time my trainings are outcome are very good, and I'm really feel proud on my training. I'm not becoming Mumia Mittu, but I really feel proud of my training. But that day, people says lots of theoretical concepts, but what is this user story? What is a story point estimation? What is a story mapping? What is a Scrum? These things does not sense. We could not connect to this topic, and I thought the same training I gave a week ago, and people were gaga about it. The training rating was like, again, cryptocurrency index in a very good day. And today, in a week, it's completely different. And then I realized that all the participants today were coming from sec and ops world. So they were coming from IT ops and security. And for them, many of these concepts, popular concepts and popular examples, popular case studies that we normally talk about in trainings does not make sense. So what I did then, I removed my trainer hat and I wear a Sherlock hat, and I start to search. I start to search about even more detail. And unlike other people, where most of time we go and talk to people and ask for, so what kind of problem you are facing? What are the challenges you have? I opted for completely different set of questions. Rather, I start to ask what you feel proud upon, what makes your life happy while working, what are the successes for you, what's really working here. So with all the positive notes, positive questions, I start asking questions, and these positive questions actually help me finding the dark side or the dark realities, all the challenges, the real challenges that we were actually facing. And I could connect with my leader's complaint. Leader is always talking about, we need to transform, we need to transform. So I was able to connect with them. What I realized, the people, work nature, tools, there's no problem in there, those things. The problem was in our operating system, the way we were operating. We were primarily asset-based teams around components and skill group, and always project-oriented. So our operating system was project-oriented. What does it really mean? It means that for every project there would be a scope, and there would need some kind of skills for every project. Skill and scope need. Based on this need, a project leader would try to create a virtual team, very quickly create a virtual team around project, taking different people from different asset groups. As I said, we were asset based or skill based, and we create virtual team and try to deliver project need. This setup worked great if we have a good ratio of number of people and number of project. But the same ratio, the same thing does not work if, say, we have 200 people and more than 100 projects. Then as an individual, a person will not be contributing to one project, but maybe more than one project, and not just two, but sometimes even three, four, or multiple projects. And that's the reality, not only for this person, but actually that's the reality for anyone else. So what happened in this case, for a as an individual, I am answerable to multiple project leaders as well as my team leader, where I am part of a asset-based team. And everyone have same situation. So for any single changes, if we wanted to do some kind of adjustment, there are too much coordination needed, multiple meetings needed. So what I realized, we were simply doing meetings and meetings and meetings. And my leader always complained, Vivek, if everyone is so busy, why don't we have great speed? Why we are slow if everyone is so busy? And that's probably, one of the realization, we need lots and lots of coordination. And since there was lots of coordination need, what we did, we hire even more coordinators, more project leaders. And at one moment of time, around 1/3 of workforce were coordinating. Uh, so what I realized, that it's about the operating system. If somehow we go to operating system where teams are not virtual team around project, but more fixed squad around services, then maybe scenario would be different. Then probably there will be less and less coordination need. And if we may change our operating system from project oriented to service oriented, And with this finding, I straight away rushed to my leader. It was like eureka, eureka, eureka for me. So I straight away rushed to my leader and I say, my dear leader, I could understand what you are asking for, but I need your help. Organization need your help to come up with some of how to be question. How we can be a service oriented organization. How to in how to bring infrastructure as a code ethos in everything that we do. How to inject, how to embed in secure by design and not secure by quality gates. And how we can shift ownership at right place. So how we can really reduce this coordination layer. And with this lots of how questions, we spend lots of time on whiteboard, but, and we were very much gearing up for a transformation to come. But then we says, no, wait for why. One of my biggest learning, and if anyone asks me, what can be one single reason any transformation fails? One single reason. And that single reason is often organization, whether it's a whole organization or at a team level. A team, tribe, department, organization go for transformation without having any compelling reason why we are going transformation. If reason is my management asked me to go transformation, if reason is whole world is doing agile, that's why we wanted to do agile. It's the reason may be external trigger. Whatever is the reason, the real trigger may be something. But as an individual, as a team, as an organization, we need to come up with our own reasoning until unless there is a compelling reason why we wanted to transform. Transformation never success. So we were very careful about this idea, and my leader laid out a very clear vision and a compelling reason for transformation. The vision was we wanted to change our operating system from service or project oriented to service oriented. And in this case, in one of the case, as I said, there were three cases I'm taking together. In one of the case, we had 570 people organization in IT ops. And out of 570 people, 130 people were playing role of this project leader or project managers. So literally one coordinator on top of every three engineers. So we were simply extremely far when it's come to coordination based work and not collaboration based work. And these were, some of the compelling reason for us. So later we laid out our approach, our transformation approach, and we opted for identity based transformation. There are three type of transformation approach. First type of transformation approach, which I fondly call management consulting style, or as is to be transformation approach. In this approach, everyone start with defining as is and then define a to be model, and we create a transition plan from as is to be. Every management consulting come up with this, and this is one of the approach for transformation. Second type of transformation approach, which is also popularly known as Tueta Kata or dot on horizon. The second type of transformation approach says that we don't know exact to be state, but we have a direction. We have a direction, a dot on the future, and we wanted to go there, but we only plan next target stage. So on that direction where we wanted to be in next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And then once we are in next target state, we go to next target state. It's very popularly known as Toyota Kata. It's very much agile way. But then there are third way of transformation approach, which I learned, which is identity based transformation. As a IT ops and cyber security, our identity was these are group of people who deliver project infrastructure need. So group of people who deliver project need, we start to change our identity that we don't deliver project need. Rather, we deliver services. We deliver self services, as you can see here in this example, in this image. The user of VPN can self consume it. I don't need to create a project and someone work on it. So so it's a change of identity that we are the people who ensure up to date, secure, high quality services are available. And these are the self services, and organizations like the delivery team and application teams are consuming those services. And in reality, this is the real DevOps. People also have lots of, there are multiple um, images of DevOps. DevOps is not only about putting your DevOps people together in one team and you say you are actually. It's about As like if you are a developer, if you need to deploy something, you are using Amazon cloud, then you are not dependent on infra. You are simply using a cloud service and you are deploying by your own. So you are able to do ops work by your own as a dev person. Then it's a DevOps. And that's kind of, same identity we start to build around with identity-based transformation. So with a clear understanding of the problem, with a compelling reason and very clear vision and a nice approach for transformation, I can say that the engine was started. So my roller coaster ride was about to start, and I was so happy. Engine started. I can hear the sound, and I was like, wow, it's going to be something. And then my upward journey started. In upward journey, some of the things that I will be talk about, as I said, those can be simply replicated in similar transformations. The first and foremost was it's really shift from a project-based virtual teams to fixed squads around services. So what we start to do, we start to do reorganizations where we moved from asset-based or component-based team to more services like around virtual machines, one team, around network services, another team, CI/CD, another team, entity access management, another squad, and value-based tribe, so that this smaller services together can be one end-to-end services for customers. So a value-based or value stream-based, but not from the business standpoint, but from the IT infrastructure standpoint. And the most important and most beautiful thing that we did, or my leader did, very, very careful selection of people. So really spending good amount of time on identifying good product owner, good scrum master, and good tribe lead. And that helped. Then another thing that really helped us is important role that managers play. I strongly believe that manager has very, very important role to play in Agile when it's come to Agile at a scale. But the approach of management need to completely change from being coordinator or being manager to being enabler. And it was also kind of an identity-based transformation that am I coordinating or am I enabling? And that's change of my identity as a manager. What does it really means? When I say manager to enabler, what does it really mean? When we look at a traditional pyramid environment, and pyramid is world's most stable geometrical structure. So it's stable by design, it's stable. But this stability not only come from a right weight at different layer, but also a very, very strong reinforcement between two layers or between layers. And in fact, in pyramid structure, these managers or group of managers play this important role of anything that communicate from top to down or down to top, whether any kind of information need to cascade or any reports that need to bubble up. Managers play a very, very important role. So in traditional setup, managers play important role, but the same manager play important role in Agile also. How? In Agile, this pyramid way of working is challenged by every nooks and corner. And primarily, as a work standpoint, we work more like network. So it's really, direct conversation. One of the Agile value is people and interactions over process and tool. So it's really, different teams directly talking to each other. And that's kind of a network structure. But if you carefully see this network structure, the basic building block of network structure is kind of a dumbbell that we do in gym, and everything is good for health. The same dumbbell thinking is very good for organization health as well. If you see this dumbbell, primarily you'll see that there are two different teams or different set of people, different expertise lying as a bell of dumbbell, but there is a small structure which creates dumbbell. In absence of that small structure that we used to hold, there is no dumbbell. And that small structure, the thin layer, is management, our managers. In absence of that thin layer, the dumbbell will never work. And in absence of dumbbell, the network will never work. So in reality, I have very lots of conversation of these managers, and then this conversation, they start to ask, Vivek, you tell we are enabler. What does we enable? And I start to say, you guys enable direct conversation. In case of pyramid, it's you who communicating. You are passing message from here to here and here to here. Here you are not passing message. People are directly talking to each other, but it's you who are enabling it. So it's enabler of collaboration, it enabler of direct communication, and that's very, very important role that managers play. And in reality, if you see, organization does not going to change their real physical structure from pyramid to dumbbell. But pyramid structure will continue to exist. But this pyramid to dumbbell structure is more of a mindset. It's more of an approach of whether I am doing everything or I'm enabling people to do it by themselves. And that's a cultural shift. And this cultural shift helped a lot. So again, this is another thing that can be directly replicated from one transformation to another transformation. We introduced lots of new practices, new tools, new governance, like PI planning, for example, coming from SAFE, introduced at some places in a different form, of course, many more things. Every time something new comes, you'll always find some resistance. As a group of coaches and leaders, what we decided, we created our own principle, and our principle was a resistance is an unpolished way to express a genuine concern. So we were very, very careful about we are not going to ignore any of this resistance. Rather, we will try to deep dive and we try to understand more. We will show much more empathy, and that helps us not being taking dogmatic approach or a solid stance. Rather, we will much more empirical, and we allow. So we were very clear that we will never come with a detailed methodology, even it's a new practice, new tool, new governance. Rather, we will be very, very much like a framework, so that things can evolve by own. With all these great things, I reached somewhere here, really up journey to this point, and all I could see was, sky and really flying to the sky. But I was completely unaware of fall, which was about to come. A steep fall, like a roller coaster ride, and I was unaware soon I will be start doing something like this, a mix of anxiety and happiness of experiment. And these were lots of learning and adaptation that I have. And as I said, the learning and adaptation is probably the biggest takeaway from this talk. First and foremost, learning for me was it was it was wrong to think that we were doing agile transformation. Agile was just a mean. Agile was not the aim or end game. So in fact, when it's come to moving from project oriented to service oriented, if the whole transformation is a car, agile is just one wheel, not this wheel, but this one, the wheel which look good. So agile is just one wheel, but then there are many more things to do. How one can be service oriented organization in absence of service catalog, for example. We are talking about a true service or true DevOps when someone can consume services like a cloud, like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Services. In absence of automation or right cloud strategy, how it will happen? And that's something, that kind of mistake initially we did. The mistake that we did, that we spend lots of focus, energy, time on agile, and all these new practices, back to back new ceremonies, practices, coaching, training, everyone was talking about agile. But then agile can bring only certain benefits. If you visualize a comb, for a comb to work well, all tooth need to be at equal side. If some of tooth are small and one tooth is very, very big, it is going to scratch your head. And same thing happened. We were very fast in agile. The reason, we were fully focused and putting all our energy in agile, and that was a learning that only doing agile is not sufficient if other wheels are punctured. So we start to become much more holistic, and not just talking about agile, but all other peripheral needs of transformation. And that was a big learning. Second learning, as like people management aspect. So the transformation was going across, and in the divisions where it was product delivery or product based or application delivery teams, it was very easy to create chapters. And chapter is one of the best, one of the fantastic thing that comes in agile world. Because in absence of chapter, what it used to always happen, that someone within the team is team leader. So there is a hierarchical relation within the team. So it's, if there is a hierarchical relation within the team, it will never be self-organizing. For a self-organization, group of equal principle is very, very important. Second, since team leader is part of the team, the appraisal and everything happens around how you are performing in this specific team. And sometimes we see that someone who is treated like a superhero or superheroine in the team, the moment that person move out of that project, suddenly the person become redundant, because for many, many years all our capacity and energy go for that specific project need or team need. And it's not talk about holistic skill development. With chapter structure, which is more horizontal, it's kind of a start to bring flat organization thinking and appraisal, not only on basis of how you are performing on your team, but how your overall skill is growing. So it's a great model. Problem with this model is this model does not work in IT operation or securities, because in case of delivery side, you can create chapter like this. In every team you can have BA, you can have Java developer, you can have .js developer, you can have UX, you can have UI tester, so you can easily create chapter. But in case of cyber security or IT infrastructure, there is nothing like this. Teams are like, engineer of network and then other engineer of window OS. Those two engineer does not have any common skill role. So it's practically impossible to create chapter like this. And we could not create. In all three transformation, we could not create chapter. And since we could not create chapter, the question was who will be team leader? And in one organization, it was product owner playing the dual role of team leader and product owner. In another organization, it was a scrum master playing this role. And in both the cases, we end up with workload. In one case, PO was extremely work overloaded because he is playing dual role. In one case, a scrum master. And in all the cases, we were never be able to create this group of equal ethos. So after many months of struggle, I could come up with solution. And last week only on LinkedIn, I've also published an article on this. What can be a very good structure, a chapter structure? And in realities, in case of the service oriented, the teams are chapter in itself. And then we start to define as, okay, I can have a PO chapter like Spotify model, I can have a Scrum Master chapter like Spotify model, but then all other places I will have the third role, PO, Scrum Master, and team members. The team member can be a chapter in itself. So even though there will still be someone within the team playing team leader role, but not for everyone, it create a hierarchical independence between PO, Scrum Master, and chapter. And that were a big support to be self-organizing. A very important role here, the chapter lead should not act like boss or people manager, but it's more like, servant leader helping chapter members to grow. Really someone who are passionate for people management, people growth. Another big learning was, granularity. And that's happened because in any transformation, people unconsciously always are so much obsessed with mapping new concept with old one. So the moment it's come epic, they say, yeah, epic, is it the project? So it's just mapping of old thing with the new thing. And at the time, what happened, people blindly start to create old project as new epic. And we end up with 200 epics. Earlier we had 200 projects, and says, no, this is something fundamentally we are making mistakes. So we start to look at the granularity level. In fact, my biggest learning was, in most of cases, feature was right fit for epic, for projects, and not the epic. Then we also start to visualize standard services versus value feature. Like, as a service oriented organization, all this project demand should not be feature or stories or PBIs for my background, but rather my real feature are, for example, if I am release pipeline service provider, I should be looking at what can be the new release pipeline. What if the new technology changing? I'm changing ARA with Ansible, or I'm changing Teradata with something else. So those are my real feature. My real feature are like, I'm thinking like a product company. Yeah. And that thinking like a product company suddenly help people to make sense of everything, make sense of storyboarding, make sense of story mapping, make sense of scrum planning and sprint planning and everything. And they start to say that, yes, in fact, we are working like a product company. Our service are our product. And that's change from standard services to value feature. So this is something was another learning. Another learning, a very, very important learning. And before I talk about it, I just like to know, how am I doing on time?
So Vivek, it's been like 30 minutes. So if you
Okay, so
want to
I
keep,
will wind up in
yeah,
2 minutes then. I will wind up.
yeah.
Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks a lot. So, but I would definitely like to talk about this engineering bias. My personal introduction to Agile happened as I being product owner. I was always developer, and I love coding and everything. So because of my and I was playing role of solution architect. Because of my technical skill, an organization appoint me technical product owner, and I was product owner of a global product. But since I always think like, used to think like an engineer or developer, I myself was suffering with engineering bias syndrome. What does it mean? I used to see value only in engineering work, technical design, architecture things, development, and anything else was kind of, yes, up to, was like, add-on things, and I never give value. But then I had a great product, but this product was supposed to be global rollout, and I was struggling with global rollout. So I was thinking, I have great product, but why am I not able to roll it out globally? And then later I realized it's the engineering bias, and I only see value in engineering thing. And then I start to see value in everything, the rollout, coordination, collaborations, change management, people onboarding, customer onboarding, so on and so forth. In service oriented organization, especially cybersecurity and IT infrastructure, I realized most of my product owner and squads were also suffering with engineering bias, because they are coming from that mindset, the security and stability. So they were suffering with engineering bias. And then we start to go with idea that, guys, I express my own story, they really connect to it, but we also share with other coaches. And there are two types of coaching. When it's come to agile coach, there are two types of coaching. One is known as coaching for compliance. So lots of doing things. You teach and you tell about this is how it should be done. And second is coaching with compassion. So for this specific thing, for engineering bias, we moved away our cursor from coaching for compliance to coaching with compassion, and start to create lots and lots of self-awareness. And once people start to realize that, in fact, then not us, but POs and team, sometimes they themselves start to say, are not we are suffering from engineering bias here? Are we really seeing value holistically? And are we really thinking about cross-functional team and not only engineering team? So and so forth. So it really helped. I will skip this for interest of time, but I will talk about it. So what happened over the time with all this learning and adaptation, things improved a lot. But the way we were funding were continue to be project-based funding. So while we shift our identity from project-oriented to service-oriented, the fund was continued to be project-oriented. So then I start to work on agile portfolio management, all the portfolio leaders and everyone. And then we start to go for multi-year funding around values, the tribes and everything, and slowly going away from each governance and funding from each and every project. With this, with all those changes, I were somewhere around here. And next fall was round the corner. But this time, not just I, but everyone in the organization were aware that fall is about to come. And this fall is not a risk, but it's a fun. It's not a fall, it's a fun. And that's where the real readiness. And to me, that is the transformation. I have worked for a management consulting firm for a decade, and I know everywhere we go, we used to sell transformation is a state. Transformation is not about achieving a state. It's not about reaching or going to be state. It's all about people readiness. If people are ready for new normal, a new way of working, then we transformed. And that was my biggest learning, and my biggest satisfaction. As I said, I have more failure than successes, but at the end, because when I see people are much more okay, comfortable with uncertainty, I realized that we have transformed. My job is done here. With this, probably you may be feeling something like this. I hope not, but if not, then I will say thanks a lot. And I believe I will still have some time for question and answer.